From terrible jokes
Zingo!
to down bad simping
You have the best sense of humor.
to literal molestation, these are the 5 of the cringe-worthy worst episodes in the regular show. Each of them gets progressively worse. Starting at number 1 is Quips. The name of the episode already introduced us to how stupid the character it was built around would be. The episode starts like usual with Benson addressing the park crew members about their routine game night, and it is Skip's time to host. Skips decides to throw his cousin as a guest, generating this reaction from everyone. Turns out that no one likes his cousin, even Pops, who's always hopeful. Just as Skips was trying to defend his family's name, Quips pulls up in a cab, blabbing with total disgust written all over the driver's face. Like he was just talking and laughing at his jokes alone, the driver could not even wait for him to get off before he zoomed off. This alone shows us how long this episode is going to be. Still oblivious, he walks over to the park members to continue spilling rubbish in the name of jokes, and after saying a supposed joke, he will proceed to explain what the joke meant and remind you that you are meant to laugh. This was not fun to watch. Muscle Man, who was also terrible in the funny department, was also visibly annoyed at him. His cousin Skips decides to save everyone from this torture and decides that they should head home, but he does not take the clue. He just continues on his way to the cart. The park members warn Skips to tell his cousin that no one finds his jokes funny. Back at Skips' house, his jokes of course did not stop. Just as Skips is trying to tell him to stop his jokes, Quips confides in him that he was fired from the comedy club, we already know why, and he needs the support from the family and friends to build his confidence. This stops Skips from telling him anything, but this could have saved our ears from the next batch of rubbish he was about to spew. Later at night, the park members arrive at Skips' house for the game, but just as they are about to enter the house, Quips opens his mouth and everyone goes away. Poor Skips managed to get Mordecai and Rigby to stay. Soon, Gary and Reginald join in. The game of the night was Draw Some, where one person from each group would draw something and someone else would guess what it is. Quips was paired with Reginald and Gary, while Skips, Mordecai, and Rigby were on a team. This pairing was a disaster because Reginald takes little things seriously. Instead of Quips focusing on winning the game, he took this opportunity to try out his failed career on a new audience, and Reginald did not have it. He made Reginald so angry that he locked both of him and Skips in a cube. Skips was doing everything possible to get them out, while Quips was still bent on throwing jabs at Reginald, who reciprocated back by making the cube smaller. At one point, Reginald made multiple reflections of Quips in order from reflection to show Quips how bad his jokes are, but this did not work. Quips was so thrilled by his reflection jokes. This was a wake-up call for Skips, who finally had to tell Quips that his jokes are not funny and is borderline annoying. Skips breaks him out of the cube, and Quips apologizes to the others, saying that he had no idea that they didn't like his jokes. Skips, being Skips, saves the day by dressing him in a clown costume and changing his audience to, guess it? To children. Well, at least they laugh at his jokes. That there is regular show versatility, it is one of those shows that can be silly and still packed with a depth at the same time. Even with the annoyance, at least at the end, we learned that there is anyone for every person. In the next episode, The Unicorn Have Got to Go delves deeper into this. The episode starts with Mordecai fawning over Margaret, as usual, totally forgetting that he came in with his buddy Rigby, and when Rigby addresses this, he dismisses Rigby's concern under the disguise that he won't understand. I think that by now, everyone including fans was tired of Mordecai's excuses of just not walking up to Margaret. A TV ad gets his attention. This takes him into a trance where Margaret is all over him due to the cologne. When Rigby snaps him off the trance, Mordecai ditches the plan to buy a game to get a cologne instead. The annoying part of all this is how Mordecai makes this seem like Rigby's fault. The embarrassment comes when Mordecai gets the Dude Time cologne and sprays it only to chase Pops off with its smell. This should have been enough hint because Pops is sensible about fancy stuff. Mordecai just became more insufferable and dumped almost the whole spray on his body, expecting that somehow Margaret would fly from her workplace into his arms. It is one of those times where you just want to reach out into the television and slap some sense into the character. Well, guess who showed up? A bunch of bro unicorns. That explains the name of the perfume. However, they promised to teach Mordecai how to attract Margaret. How these bunch of losers managed to convince anyone to follow their plans is mind-blowing, and their annoying bro chant spoiled the flow of the episode. Mordecai's desperation over some girl made him drink unicorn poop to gain some knowledge. Don't get me wrong, he really needs some knowledge, but this is not the way to go about it. Mind you, while this was going on, Rigby was still trying to get his best friend back, but Mordecai kept on beating the shit out of him. the humiliation ritual took a different turn after he applied some gel to look like a punk-styled motorcyclist. With gelled hair and a bad frizz sentence, "Do you want to lay it down?" he approached Margaret, who was so confused with what was going on. The awkwardness of the interaction pulled him out of the store. A sensible person would call it a day, but not for Mordecai. Get this, he still went back to the party horse for advice. Guess the solution he was given, that they should hang out to get him to be more like them. He kept on pestering them about some magic code to get a girl, till they told him off, leaving Rigby alone with them. Rigby and all just wanted someone to hang out with, so he played along with them, and this turned out to be a very bad idea. These losers destroyed the trampoline. Rigby uses a mattress, tied a whole Benson to the door, and ate gums off him. They began to bully Rigby by farting in his face, taking turns. Every scene with the unicorn just got worse and worse. Rigby was grossed out that he reached out to Mordecai for help and took accountability. Of course, Mordecai rode on this opportunity and blamed every single thing on Rigby. Later on, they got the help of Skips, who blew the unicorns up in the sky. As gross as this episode was, if you're eating anything, tread carefully with the next episode on the list. We all know Muscle Man, one of the most strongest and most carefree members of the park. But in this episode, we see a different side of Muscle Man. We see a depressed man who is unable to function. He fails to admit that something is wrong with him, but his behavior gave him out. He gave us one of the most disgusting scenes in cartoon history. High Five Ghost reveals that he is like this because he was dumped. This heartbreak made him unstable to function. Benson takes this into consideration and splits his task into two unserious workers, Mordecai and Rigby. At first they were cool with it, which is strange considering their history. Midway into the task, it became clear that they underestimated how much weight Muscle Man pulls in the park, so they decided to make Muscle Man get over Starla, the Mordecai way, which is using a new lady to get over an ex. Of course, this turns out to be a very bad idea.
This heart beats for another!
Who tattoos their girlfriend's name across their chest? Defeated, they decided to meet this Starla, their friend could not get over with, in order to convince her to get back with him. Starla was so confident in her decision because to her Muscle Man is incapable of having emotion. Mordecai stepped up and gave us this heartfelt speech about how Muscle Man is human. This backfired badly, as Starla finds the man she's been looking for in who? In Mordecai. Look at this.
You have such a way with words.
What will an adult do in this situation? Maybe walk away, but not Mordecai and Rigby. They decide that it's the best to date their friend's ex and break up with her to make her run back to her ex. This mind-blowing stupidity leads to a devastating slideshow of Starla trying to kiss Mordecai in the most gruesome way possible. Just take a look at this. What happens next lets us know why she refers to as Muscle Woman. Following the breakup, she goes on a rampage, causing widespread destruction. Her footstop alone cracks the ground. She uproots trees as if they were reeds, and she uses a rock to bring down a helicopter. In a bit, they reach out to Muscle Man, who is still mourning his loss, to help them and all. It took words of affirmation. Well, if you will call it that, to calm this monster of a woman down. Maybe if Muscle Man was less of a douche, we will not have this episode. And just when you think that Starla trying to kiss Mordecai was bad, have you seen Muscle Man kiss Starla? Look at this. I wish it stopped here, but Muscle Man thought that it was cool for us to know that he would love his girlfriend destroy things. At least this shows us that there is someone for anyone, but not for Mordecai, because the next episode, Dumped at the Altar, will leave you speechless. This episode begins with Mordecai sulking over relationship matters again. This time things are awkward between him and CJ, after Margaret confesses to both of them that she still has feelings for Mordecai. Their phone call makes things worse. Just the word cool thrown about. Later on, Mordecai and Rigby joins the others in organizing Muscle Man's wedding, with him being a total groom villa, stalling their process because he was so emotional. It is already weird that the name Muscle Man and the word emotion are in the same sentence, but here we are. Mordecai and Rigby were assigned to arrange the seats at the wedding venue. While carrying out the task in the Mordecai and Rigby way possible, Mordecai's phone rang, and guess who was on the line? You guessed it, no other person than Margaret. She calls to apologize for the way things are between him and CJ. But tensions through the phone suggest a different thing altogether. I feel at this point everyone was so over this weird love triangle. The wedding starts later and Mordecai and Rigby stand by ushers for the event. Margaret arrives. Instead of her getting to her seat like every normal guest, she steals the opportunity to flirt with Mordecai after supposedly apologizing 10 minutes earlier. She proceeds to extend her elbow so that Mordecai will walk her to her seat as an usher. And mind you, she knows that CJ will be at the wedding. Mordecai would have taken up the offer if CJ had not arrived at that moment. Poor CJ arrives and tries to mend things between her and Mordecai, but was interrupted by Benson, who calls him to come over here and helps Muscle Man, who was behaving like an asshole over some letter his dad wrote to him and could only be opened on his wedding day, but he could not find the letter. Over at Muscle Man's house, Rigby notices something off about Mordecai and confronts him. Before we continue, can we pause for a second and look at the house of a soon-to-be married man? Back to Mordecai, who dismisses Rigby's concern and proceeds to belittle him that he knows nothing about a relationship. So much knowledge from a man stuck between choosing a girl who dumped him and a girlfriend who cares about him. Rigby counters his argument and reveals that he's been dating Eileen for over a couple of months and advises him to trust his gut. Later on, they find the letter just in time to save Muscle Man's wedding, as it was almost ruined after Muscle Man replaced I do with I can't over the letter, and when he is given the letter, he does this. Mordecai steps in and reads the letter out for him. This turns out to be a very terrible idea because the letter spoke to him. A sensible human with a brain would have walked back to his seat and figured things out, but not Mordecai. He decides that this is the perfect moment to cry about being stuck in a triangle, looking in Margaret's direction as his soulmate, and could not even stare at CJ for a second. Margaret just sat there, grinning ear to ear, while CJ wished the ground could open and swallow her. Mordecai continues by breaking up with his girlfriend at the union of two people hijacking his friend's wedding. CJ leaves and Mordecai goes back to play the victim card again. I think that I speak for everyone who is done with Mordecai's love life because it turns him into a total loser. At least Rigby could give some lessons on how to stay in a healthy relationship. Still on the topic of stupid things people do in the name of love, the next episode, Longest Weekend, raises the bar and in fact removes the bar. The episode starts with Mordecai, Rigby, Muscle Man, Eileen, Margaret, and Starla watching a movie at the movie theater. The movie is about two partners who decide to stay away from each other for a weekend because their love is so heated that if they touch each other, they could blow up. They end up not putting up with staying apart, so they blow up. The guy had this expression while the girls somehow enjoyed this. After the movie, Starla thought that the movie was so good and life-changing that it would be good to test it out on her relationship with Muscle Man, and her reason for this is so silly.
When we're too close, there's no space between us for our love to grow.
How do you prove your love to someone by staying away from them? I am talking about no calls and no texts. Someone should please explain this in the comments, and also use this moment to describe while I figure out how this math works in Starla World. Knowing how obsessed both of them were with each other, everyone was so concerned about this, but they brushed it off saying it was a test of their love strength. Muscle Man even doubled down by insulting Mordecai and Rigby for their little knowledge of the ladies. Back home, Muscle Man decided to use television for the whole week to stay away from Starla. This backfired badly. You know that the moment in your life where everything reminds you of love? That is how a racing show turned into a love display. This made him laugh so much that he decided to reach out to call Starla, but immediately remembered that the test of love. Suddenly, he started to spiral into utter delusion. His magazine pictures turned into Starla, his chicken wings turned into Starla, and even his mob stick also turned to Starla. This startled him so much that he ran outside to seek help of his friends to stop him from calling. The next scene was just Mordecai and Rigby destroying every communication device to stop him from calling Starla. Margaret reached out to Mordecai to complain about Starla, and somehow, Mordecai turned this as a way to rekindle the love between him and Margaret that was never there. Starla, on the other hand, was being unbearable. According to her, Muscle Man was supposed to call because she did not mean what she said earlier, and he was somehow meant to gain access to her brain due to their link. When asked to call instead, she refused. Back to Muscle Man, who was totally losing it to the extent that he tried to escape from his friends using the window. Luckily or unluckily, Mordecai caught him in the act, and everyone decided to tie him up until 12 AM, when all this madness ends. They take rounds to guard him from escaping, and every park member guards him successfully. Everyone apart from Rigby, who unties him to use the restroom. Muscle Man kicks Rigby down and rushes out the door, but everyone rushes and puts him down. Muscle Man loses it and starts to call out Starla's name. Somehow his screams turn into a wolf growl that reaches Starla, who is far away from Eileen and Margaret. This scene could make one die away from the cringe. Starla reciprocated this call by growling back as Eileen and Margaret struggle to hold her down too, but somehow they turn into some magical ball that shot off into the air, which finally exploded as they hit each other. Before we go, look at this. If you did not learn anything from this video, take this as a lesson. Never be caught up in the midst of two people in love, even if they're fighting, because somehow they will use you to rekindle their love. Please don't forget to subscribe because it encourages us to analyze more episodes. Thanks for watching.